but some say weapons, of unrighteousness. Look at this. But present yourselves to God as those alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to God. So he's saying, don't present yourself to sin, but rather to God, and this is the part, as those alive from the dead. So he's talking about presenting the new creature you are to God. You're not presenting the old man to God. See, that guy died. So you're presenting yourself as alive from the dead.
Yeah.
See, you're the born-again new creature is who you're presenting.
And it totally changes how you come to God in your personal,
Oh, yeah.
like, quiet times. Like, I just felt like it's totally revolutionized that, because I used to feel so guilty, you know, or so condemned coming before God, you know, and it was such a struggle. And now it's like, you know, you love me, I love you. Da, da, da.
That's right.
Yeah, we're like that, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that.
That is exactly, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you think, I was just thinking about, like, a marriage relationship back and forth, you know, how sometimes the man might be domineering and the woman, the female or the wife, will be fearful to come and speak to the husband because it's an improper connection or you know.
Right.
But if this is all open and free and there's love there, then there's nothing that you can't say to that person.
Right.
There's no fear in love, is I think what the Bible said. Yeah.
Perfect love cast out.
Yeah. And he says, come boldly to the throne. You're never going to do that unless you see yourself as the new creature. Because you will never feel like you belong there.
That's good.
You always feel like you're tiptoeing into territory you're not invited into. Yeah.
That's good.
Wow. So, any thoughts about any of this? I don't know. I'm kind of quick and to the point here, I guess.
Number 13, did it say yield your body or members?
This says present. It says, and do not go on presenting the members of your body to sin as instruments of unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God as those alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to God.
Well, explain what members is.
Well, my first thought is your body parts. I don't know if that's right. I mean, because first he says body. Let's see, and do not go on presenting the members of your body.
Members of your body?
Yeah.
Of your flesh?
I guess.
Could it be soul and body? Maybe?
Yeah, I think probably so.
Soul and body.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking even, really.
Your thinking as well as your body.
I wonder what that word members is.
That's
there.
right. What does it mean, Brett?
Members. Yeah, like the members of your body. I mean,
that's deep, man.
It's the whole body, isn't it? Member, limb, any part of the body.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking, like hands and feet or eyes. And another thought I had was when Jesus said, if your eye offends you, pluck it out. If your hand offends you. And the law would say, get rid of those members. But he's saying, no, present them.
Couldn't it mean thinking as well, like soul thinking, presenting your fleshly parts of your being?
Think through my mind.
Yeah.
I think he emphasizes body here because you do things through your body.
You embody it. Right.
So I don't think he means to exclude soul, but the emphasis is on
your being,
what
your
you're
whole.
doing.
Yeah.
What you commit the sins with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a person without a body can't sin. I mean, it can't find any expression. The same way Satan can't express himself without a body.
There you go.
Romans 7 says it's sin in your members.
Yeah. So it would not be necessarily spirit, then it would be
It's not
soul
spirit,
body.
for sure.
Yeah,
It has to be soul body, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be. Because flesh is really soul body. The expression of spirit. How spirit expresses itself.
Right.
So we have, so this is present yourself. In other words, stop opening yourself to the sin. Stop allowing or stop.
Yeah, well, all these words like yield and submit and obedience are all words of faith. It's like, go back to what Brett says, it's a simple fact of receiving the truth, of just receiving, you know. So obedience is, okay, I just received that my body is an instrument of righteousness, not an instrument of sin. I'm not going to take that. It's not an instrument of sin. So, and if somehow, you know, I have habits that continue like that, no, I take a stand of faith. It's not. It belongs to Jesus. So I'm presenting my flesh, my body, as instruments by faith, by agreeing with the fact that He owns my body, that He is an instrument of righteousness.
So
It's an act of faith.
So that is an identity level thing again, because it's
Yes.
remembering who you are
Yes.
and not who
Right.
you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are alive from the dead.
Yes.
Wait a minute. That's the old dead guy that
There
used to
you
do
go.
that.
That's
I don't do that. That's
Yeah.
not, yeah. So you operate, yeah. So
So
one
it's
thing-
not, I've got to present, okay,
Yeah.
let's work real
Yeah.
hard. It's not that.
sort of like a little reminder. Wait a
Yes.
minute. Who are
Right.
you? Whose are you?
Verse
Yeah.
16, present yourselves to as slaves. Well, if it's some active thing you did, then how could you be a slave? The point is, don't let Satan continue operating your members.
Yeah,
It's
by believing it.
Yeah.
You have the freedom to say no now.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can say, no, you have no power over me, sorry. I even speak to my body.
Yeah.
No, you have no.
We do a lot of talking to ourselves.
Yeah, do we talk to
Dominion over
ourselves?
too. I think that's a form of constant prayer.
It is.
Well, you know, I remember Tracy was, well, you could probably tell this story better than I can, about how God showed you your behavior at the,
Yeah, there's this lady who there's this lady who talked all the time.
Who could that be?
I don't know. It wasn't me. But no, this lady, she talked all the time. Just talk. And so this other guy was kind of making fun of her, saying that, you know, maybe her husband had put tape around her mouth, and then when she goes to work, he takes it off, and then we all thought that was funny, me included. We laughed at her. Well, right after I'd walked away, I just felt the Lord say to me, He said, "Oh, my children don't act like that." And I never made fun of another person again, because I realized that I am His child, and that's who I am, and His children don't act like that.
so it wasn't condemning.
Right, it wasn't
It was,
condemning.
it was convincing you that you were righteous. It was reminding you of your righteous state. I thought that was just
Laughed at that kind of thing.
I thought that was
No, it's-
a great illustration, because I know when I was growing up, every time I was doing something wrong, all I had was condemnation, and I just assumed that was God.
Right, yeah.
Well, what did that do? That led me to do drugs and alcohol, because I had to get relief somehow, and God wasn't going to give it to me.
Right.
He was the one causing my pain. I mean, that was the subconscious
Right.
thought, you
So
know.
the more you drank and did
Try to
drugs,
cover it up,
you
try to,
pass out and didn't have
for a
to deal
moment,
with
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
at that time.
yeah.
But then when you wake up,
Of course, then there it is again.
Well, let's
Yeah,
go do the same
Yeah.
thing we did yesterday.
So it is remembering who we already are, really.
yeah.
In my time of this, it was warfare to me, because I would speak the truth, but my bodily members did not follow through with what my declaration was. And I wasn't manifesting what I was saying, but I wasn't going to touch it. I wasn't going to try in any way to touch that, because I put it all into God to manage my soul and my body, because there was no way I was going to touch that. So I was like a chicken with his head cut off and flopping around for a long time. And then, but I stood. I said, I'm not taking it. My members are instruments of righteousness, and it truly was spiritual warfare. You know, because Satan wants to own you. He wants to express himself. He's losing his way of expression through us. And he's going to come back again and again and say, I own you, I own you. And, you know, I mean, So it really was spiritual warfare. But all I did was stand. I didn't move. That's really all spiritual warfare is. Spiritual warfare is not going out there fighting Satan. It's standing in who we've already
That's
are,
right. Yeah.
because Satan's already defeated.
Right.
And so as I stood, then
The lesser.
then it
He moved
comes.
to something
That's
else,
right.
someone else. that he
Then
knew
my
did.
soul and my body lined up. It has to, really, because spirit rules soul and body. Has to.
And that's the only weapon he has against us, is to deceive us into thinking we're not what we are, so
Yes.
then we move out
Right.
instead of standing.
And
Yeah.
it's almost schizophrenic when you're saying one thing and manifesting something else.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're like, oh gosh, you
Yeah,
know?
that was like me, like 2 weeks ago, just like consumed with anxiety and me saying, well, I'm not an anxious person.
There you go.
Right? That's not who I am.
That's right.
Wow.
And
But
I
I was
mean,
like,
that's power. That's power. The power is in the truth of what you're
Yes.
saying.
yeah.
That really lines up your body and soul.
Yeah.
Nothing else does. Power of the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
That's right.
Well, Satan has to back away if you keep affirming the truth.
Mhm.
But he'll keep coming at
He
you
will.
and see if you'll still stand.
You know what?
And that's it.
I believe this. When, okay, Paul, think about Paul and all the 5 times he was beaten, 39 stripes. He was beaten more than Jesus, right? He was. Jesus was beaten just one time, 39 stripes, or however many stripes he had. Okay, so the whole time Satan is saying, flesh, this is reality. I'm going to show you, pow, again and again. This, I have you, I have you, I have you. And he stood,
Absolutely.
no.
That's where our suffering comes in.
Yes,
Mm.
that's
Standing
right.
on the truth.
And he says, no. He didn't have to scream it. He didn't have to do anything. No, Jesus is who I am. Think of that. Stoned. We don't know what suffering is yet.
This is a trying of your faith being much more
Mhm.
precious than gold. That's
Right.
what it is. Will you stand
Right.
when you don't see it, you
Right.
don't feel it,
Yes.
and it's not
Yes.
visible yet?
Yes, that's it.
Will you stand?
That's the test.
And that's
We
much
all-
more precious than gold. And
Yes, it is.
though it be tried with fire.
And that is fire.
It is.
Oh, wow. What a man.
What a God.
Mhm. Held him true. Unto him who is able to keep us from falling. Hallelujah.
It's good.
And he will in his own time.
Yes, he will. He is. We are kept. We're kept. I'm a kept woman.
Well, and then in 1 Peter 2:21 it says, "For you have been called for this purpose, since Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example for you to follow in his steps, who committed no sin, nor was any deceit found in his mouth, and while being reviled, he did not revile in return. While suffering, he uttered no threats, but kept," I love this, "kept entrusting himself to him who judges righteously."
All right.
So it's like this, Lord, you see this. Lord, you got this. Lord,
Right.
I mean, whatever you're going.
Right.
So it was the way of throwing it. That right there is basically saying you throw it back onto God, because it's like, I'm trusting you. I
Yeah.
don't know what this is about. I don't know how you're going to deliver me.
But he does.
Yeah, I mean, but you're going to do it. I mean, somehow you're going to do it.
Because, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just was thinking about how the temptation, so all that is throughout the scripture. And I guess the original thing that really got me about all this was how that was the first thing out of Jesus' mouth to Paul or Saul was, "You're going to suffer for my name's sake. You are a chosen vessel to suffer." That's the plan. I'm thinking, all right, tomorrow's Sunday. When you get into your tomorrow in your Sunday school classes, and you get in the pulpit, that's what I want you to do. I want you to get up and tell everybody in there, if you want Christ in your life, be prepared to be a vessel full of suffering. Because
That's your calling.
now you're invited.
That's
Well, you
your
actually
calling.
have said that to someone.
I mean, whosoever will, let him come.
Yeah.
Yikes. I mean, if that was the offer, you know, I mean, on the front
Right,
end,
yeah.
that would weed out a lot of folks. I mean,
That's not gonna fill a cup.
yeah, I mean,
That's right.
well, that's what Jesus said, I think it was in John 6, he said, if you don't eat of my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part of me. In other words, if you're not joining in my suffering, if you're not coming in here with me, and most of them left. This is a hard saying. Who can hear this?
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of times I see people struggling over empty pews in their churches, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Jesus did everything he could, in one sense, to run people off.
That's
Yeah.
right, he did.
He made them see the truth was very difficult. You know, the path is narrow.
That's right.
It's not going to be fun all the time. And do you want to leave too?
That's
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it was always an open door.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Invitation.
It was never gather them all together and keep them in a box here. It was, you know,
And beg 'em.
what's that?
Beg them to stay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and come up
often.
with programs and feed them and all of these things.
That's why we say we don't want a flock, we want a flow
Yeah,
of people.
Right.
What do you want a flock for? To hold them for what?
yeah. Yeah, set them free.
Yeah,
So you can
right.
fleece them.
Go out.
That's
What?
what you want a flock so you can fleece them.
You!
Right.
I think Ezekiel had something said about that.
When you get a flow, they get to be part of the river.
Yeah.
The suffering is left out though so much, you know, in the sense of, you know, people are hoodwinked into becoming Christians, and then they don't realize that
Oh, yeah.
that suffering will come, and when it does come, they fall because
Yeah.
they didn't realize it was going to be coming. You
Yeah.
know? So in some ways it was kind of good on the front end for Paul to hear that, you know,
Yeah.
so he could expect it, you know. It's kind of like letting people know what they're in for, but also giving them hope at the same time.
Yeah, because you're going to go through some stuff, but I'm going to rescue you.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got you.
Yeah,
Like,
but
so
I would.
to me that is good news, you know, because it's like the, what do you call it, the carrot and the stick, you know. It's,
But to me, he probably expected it, knowing that he was killing all the Christians beforehand, and now he's the Christian, and you know that everybody's going to be after you now. So God was saying, yeah, that's right. You got it. This is going to happen. This is what you've joined. You see?
What do you
Yeah,
think
what-
was meant by kicking against the goads?
Oh, I haven't. thought
Well,
about it.
I remember reading something about that one time, and it was talking about some kind of little pointer thing that was on that an ox or whatever would be pulling, and they would kick, and it would hurt them. But my thing, I think for me, it's that Paul, you think you're doing what I've asked you to do, but you're really completely kicking against what I've called people to do. You're completely fighting what I'm asking you to do. You're doing what you think I want you to do, but it's really, you're hurting yourself here. You know, you're basically, it's backfiring on you.
You're making other folks suffer.
That too,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
I've
what I
always
mean, the
thought
ministry some of us were in for a while, our idea of intercession was making other folks suffer. And our intercession was that we made other folks suffer so they could come through.
Ah,
Well, when we weren't taking much of the suffering on ourselves.
I thought maybe that I've always thought that Stephen's stoning had
There
a
it
big
is.
effect on Paul,
That's it.
and that he was wrestling
That's it.
with the fact that this man looked into heaven
Right.
and went to death with a smile on his face,
yeah.
praising God. And I'm killing these people.
Why are you fighting this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a conviction.
yeah.
His own conviction, because his own heart convicted him after he saw the love of Jesus on the face of Stephen, and because he was doing everything he thought was right to please God,
Yeah.
which would kill the Christians. And this man said, you know, forgive him. Forgive him. He knows not what he does.
Wow.
My gosh, you've got to know that's greater than you killing somebody. And then seeing the face of Jesus, I mean, his face lit up. It put conviction. And when conviction is in a person, they get worse. He went out killing more people
Yeah.
because he's fighting against his own conviction.
Oh.
That's what the goals are.
I-
And so,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the law in Romans 7, he's kicking against it. Because I mean, I always thought that if you're attempting to obey the law in a self-effort, flesh way, it's really you're just competing with Christ. That's what you're doing. You're basically
That's
saying,
true.
you know, I can
Trying to
do
be like
this.
him.
Yeah, I can be like him. I can do this. And you don't see it that way. I mean, because you're deceived. But from God's perspective, he's looking at this and he's going, "What? Why are you fighting? Why don't you just receive me? Why don't you just let me rescue you from this? Why don't you just let me live this life? Why are you fighting it?" I mean, but meanwhile, we think we're doing what we're supposed to do. He's seeing us as
no wonder
fighting.
it's so hard.
Yeah, it's because we're so deceived, you know, yeah. Wow. So we're in competition with him, trying to keep his law.
I thought another thing.